that I give is always like the importance of rest.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone needs to accept that, like outside of the disabled community, because rest
Yeah.
is so important and we really overlook it. I think there's this massive like hustle culture, especially through the pandemic, of, you know, people getting second jobs and alternative incomes and all of that. And that's all great, but also rest and look after yourself, because that's really important too.
Yeah.
And I think as well that helps like make anything more sustainable. And then I would also say just really tap into that community. I mean, if they're listening to this, they're already doing something right. But I found that just speaking to other people who really got it made
Yeah.
such a difference. You know, you can speak to people who have empathy, but they won't understand just the complexity of it, and of
Yeah.
always having it in the back of your head that you have to think about these things. So speaking to people who have similar experiences really does make a difference.
And I would definitely champion that as well, because I have friends that I've made through this podcast that understand things that never in a million years my able-bodied friends ever understand. And it's not for them want of being like ignorant, it's not for them want to trying, it's just they won't understand because it's not their experience, it's not their reality. And actually I've made some of the best friends that I've got through doing this, because actually there are certain things that I never have to explain, and they're like, oh yeah, I get you, like, how's it going, like, yeah, you will understand. There's so many nuances that you don't have to explain amongst your community, which is a lovely place to be.
Yeah, definitely. I think that as well. And I just think, as much as it can feel so isolating, and it really does at times,
Yeah.
having those people will help that, even if it's just, you know, being able to message someone and say, I'm having a bad day, can you send me a cute picture of a dog? Like, that's what you need.
Yeah. It's so true. So interestingly, I have I have a set of questions really that tend to quite annoy me, or I just find a bit intrusive when people ask me about my disability. And it tends to be, did a shark bite your arm off? Or alternatively, like, what happened or how did it happen? And I was wondering, do you have any sets of questions that you find like a little bit too much from other people?
Yeah, for me, the thing was, I don't so much use them now, but a few years back, I was using mobility aids a lot. So I was using a walking stick
Yeah.
quite often when I went out. And what I noticed, and I don't know if it's something about being a young woman or like appearing, quote unquote, you know, able-bodied,
Yeah.
but people always assumed that it was a temporary thing, that it was an injury, which I
Uh-huh.
found really interesting because it's a walking stick, not crutches. But often I would be asked, oh, what have you hurt? What have you done to your leg? What have you, you
Yeah.
know, what is injured? And it was like, no, no, there's not an injury here. This is my body.
Yeah.
And I found that quite hard, because it's just this assumption of, oh, it's temporary, so I can ask about it and we're going to have a little laugh at whatever you've done.
Yeah.
And I found that quite hard. And then now I think with my Crohn's, it's less of the questions, but it's more of this unsolicited advice of what I should and shouldn't be eating or doing and things like that. And it comes from a good place, but sometimes it's exhausting.
Yeah, I can imagine. Almost like, have you ever tried yoga? Yoga's not going to help me out right now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's just that thing as well of, as much as I'm sure out of all these things that people can suggest, there would be one that would marginally help me. But it's the cost in terms of, I mean, financial cost,
Yeah.
energy cost, time cost of trying all these things, and the mental load of it. Sometimes you don't want to hear that if you tried a little bit harder, you could be a bit better. Like, that's not helpful when you're like at your limit.
Yeah. And it's not helpful for anyone, like, it's not helpful for anyone, period, but specifically in the disabled community, like, that's the almost like the worst thing that you could tell someone. It's like, if you tried harder, you could be like an able-bodied person and you would be somewhat normal. And you're like, it's never going to happen, Sharon. Like, it won't ever happen. So like, accept it and move on.